Hello and welcome to Hashtag Tea Tuesday. I'm Lisa Ann Spencer, enjoying a cup of hot tea this morning. It's really cold outside. This is not Hashtag Friday Sews, and I only mention that because I haven't done a Friday Sews in a long time, and there's some reasons for that. So I thought what I would do today is just do a kind of a long update. So if you're interested in having a cup of tea with me and hanging out for a while, this one's going to be a little longer, so you might want to push pause and go fix yourself a cup of tea or coffee or whatever you like. Yum yum. This is Lady Grey Twinnings brand in a bag. You know, I don't often drink bag tea, but Carol from Hashtag Friday Sews recommended that I try the Lady Grey because I mentioned last time that I love Earl Grey, but it is highly caffeinated. And this Lady Grey is a black tea like Earl Grey. It says uniquely ours, delight in the refreshing citrus fruit flavors of this one-of-a-kind tea. So it is slightly citrusy, but not like zingy like lemon. The fruity taste definitely, but it has like this slight, I don't know, Earl Grey flavor to it. So I think that's from the bergamot oil. I'm trying to see on here what it actually has in it. I don't have my glasses on, so I'm not able to see. Oh, here it is. Black tea, orange peel, lemon peel, natural citrus flavors, whatever that means, with other natural flavors. Okay, I'm drinking unknowns here, but it's good. It is good and mild, but still, you know, robust enough black tea that it has a good flavor. And it's hot, which is wonderful because I think it's about 25 degrees outside today with about a half an inch of snow on the ground. So our family's still really enjoying the winter weather. You know, we moved up here from Georgia. Where did we move from? We've been in the South for the last about 12 years, and that's where we're from. But we certainly prefer the Midwest where you get some snow. It's really nice, and we really dislike the hot, humid South. So, you know, that's just personal preferences. I know there's people who hate snow and love the South. So, you know, cheers to you. So I noticed I have this little, you know, it's a scrunchie, and it's actually, if you have followed me on Hashtag Friday Sews, this is probably one of the last things that I made. And I wanted to talk just a minute about why am I not participating in Hashtag Friday Sews. I tried when we first moved here. I did a little bit of sewing, but my sewing room is not my room anymore. It's my daughter's room. Plus my office desk is up there. It's kind of everything. The girls are homeschooling. It's disruptive to them and to me. I just cannot get in a groove. And there hasn't been anything really pressing that I wanted or needed to sew, probably because it's dead of winter and I just, besides being busy, still from the move, hate to keep, you know, saying the same thing over and over again, but we have 6 children. 5 of them still are at home with us, even the older ones. Some drive, some don't. But like tomorrow, today is Wednesday, by the way. This is actually Tuesday, Tea Tuesday. Tomorrow we have an appointment for myself, my oldest 2 daughters. One has a permit, one has her license, my oldest son, and then one of my daughters that just turned 16. We're all going to the DMV to get our Kentucky license. We've been here since October and we're just now getting this done because we've been so busy. Everybody had to go to the dentist. That's 7 people, dentist, and we hadn't had cleaning since pre-COVID, so it was pretty bad. And so we've had to have some repeats, and so it's just like feels like it's taking up my life, but I don't mind so much. I feel like we're in this rental house. We're only going to be here a year and a half. And that countdown, it's more like a year now because we've been here since end of September. October, November, December, January, that's 4 months. So yeah, time is ticking by really fast. So one of my daughters started horse riding lessons. So getting that started, finding out where it's at, getting in the groove of going, on a certain day every week. Anyway, it's just my life, and it has been quite busy. I do want to say I have my son, my oldest son, got engaged in November and is getting married in June. 4 of my girls, 3 are in the wedding party, and 1 will be helping, and we've got to go do dress fittings and alterations, and no, I do not want to do these things myself. It's just too much pressure. So it looks like sewing is going to be really not happening. I hope I get my sojo back and I can start sewing again, but it will be after the wedding, I'm sure. So, hopefully those of you who have followed me on Tea Tuesday and also on my Bible study channel, that you'll continue to hang out with me and, have tea with me and study the Bible. I had thought today, something that I've wanted to do for a really long time is give my personal testimony, because I haven't done that. So we're 7 minutes in. I think I can do it kind of quickly. I don't want this video to be over 30 minutes long. I'd like it to be shorter than that. But before I start doing that, so all of you who are not interested in hearing, I'm going to be giving glory to God and to Jesus Christ, and that's not everybody's cup of tea. And I get that. You don't have to stick around, you know that, and I know that. But here's another thing that has been taking up a lot of my time. I participate in a lot of online Bible study groups. I'm an older woman. There's a lot of young girls out there that when they find out that I do teach, they'll invite me over, or even men's ministries like in jail or online, and they're like, we need an older woman because a lot of women are kind of coming into our group and they need somebody that can teach them and disciple them, bring them up, teach them how to walk this walk of Christianity. So it is always my pleasure to do that. My children are able to, take care of themselves for the most part. My oldest daughter homeschools the 2 girls that are in homeschool right now. And so I have a lot of free time, and I'm thankful for that. That reminds me of something else. We found a homeschool co-op, and we've joined that. And because they know I had experience before, they asked me would I teach. So I was glad to do that. So I'm going to be teaching botany, and I'm going to be teaching just dominoes, a fun class, how to play traditional dominoes. So that's another reason that I have been quite busy lately. So I write these daily Bible studies for some groups that I belong to, and but I am writing an actual book, a commentary on the book of Proverbs. And I've been working on it for many years, but I have cranked down while we're here in the rental house. I want to really focus. So I've got my proofreaders, and I'm sending chapters back and forth. I'm doing corrections. So I'm hoping by the end of the year I'm going to have that ready to be published. that is taking a lot of my time. So it's all good stuff. It's good stuff. As far as my personal testimony goes, I won't, bore everybody with all the details. And if there's anything you want to know, you can get in touch with me and ask. I'm glad to talk to anybody about the Lord and how He saved me. My childhood was, my parents were not churched. They had been churched as young people, both in a charismatic type church. Not quite exactly the same, but I'm talking, tongue talking, what people call holiness, Church of God. There's different names for it. My dad's parents, they home churched, and they did a lot of, tongue talking and rolling in the floor kind of thing. And my mother's mother, her family was holiness. That's the church that they went to. A little bit more subdued, I think, but the biggest thing to them was, are you speaking in tongues? If you're not, you're not saved. My parents both hated that as young people, and so they just, to them, that was church, and they wanted no part of it. So they got married, in the mid 60s, the sexual revolution, the feminist revolution, and they were just, that's what they did, drugs, sex, and rock and roll. And I'm this little bitty person being brought up by these two very ignorant, selfish people. And but the nice thing is that I knew that there was a God. I was thankful when I read Helen Keller's testimony. She was born deaf and blind, and when she became an adult, and of course, she gave her testimony. She said, in that darkness, being not hearing and not seeing, I always knew that there was a God. Everybody does. You're just taught to disbelieve it, or you talk yourself out of it because your conscience gets seared, and it's uncomfortable to believe that there's a God that you're going to give an account to. So I always knew that there was one. My mom and dad, my mom once, sat down with me and told me that prayer that you pray at night, now I lay me down to sleep. So that's sort of comforting to a child. If I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. But, my mom taught me that in ignorance. I was a child. I had no knowledge of good and evil. If I died, I would have gone to be with God, because when you have no knowledge of good and evil, you can't offend God. So, and my mom had a brother who, one night I was complaining of not feeling well, and he said, well, if you just have faith and you ask God to heal you, He'll make you feel better. And I think he was messing with me a little bit, or he thought, well, maybe because she is a child, if she has faith like a child. But of course, I prayed. I knew there was a God, and I was like, God, will you help me feel better? And I felt better, or at least I psychologically, talked myself into feeling better. But, that was about the max of God that I ever got. My grandmother took me to church with her once, and at Easter, she gave me this little teeny tiny little picture book it was like a mini Bible, and it had a picture of Jesus. I remember that I was about 3 years old, and I knew it was special, but I didn't know why. So, I grew up loving the world, being a part of the world, the drugs, sex, and rock and roll. And it's a dead-end path. It was a dead-end path for my parents. It wrecked their marriage. My mom died in a car accident, out drinking, partying with another man, and very unpleasant. Lots of pornography in our home. I wouldn't wish my upbringing on anyone. But somebody, the Gideons, when I went to school, gave me a little New Testament Bible, and I kept it under my pillow, and I did read it as a little child. I didn't understand it. When I got to college, the Gideons were there, gave me another little New Testament, and I read it. kept it, read it. I always wanted to understand the Bible, but I just felt it was beyond me. I met my husband in college. We got married. We were young and ignorant and had no sense, either one of us. Both of us in our teen years had gone to a church because we were invited by someone else. Both of us had gone to little Baptist churches and, heard whatever message. And for the Baptists, like the tongue talkers, to be saved, you have to speak in tongues. For the Baptists, to be saved, you have to be water baptized. And I did that. I was convicted of sin. And you go to a Baptist church, and they invite you to come up to the front, say some prayer, and then get in the tank of water as soon as possible. So I did that, and I did it gladly because I wanted to be saved. I knew I was wicked. I always knew that. I always wanted to be saved and to please God, but I just didn't know how. And with myself, it was impossible. I don't know if you know that or not, but you can't save yourself and you can't live good. It's not possible in your flesh. So I did the baptizing thing and I felt so good. I felt so relieved. I felt like, well, my sins are washed away now, and from this point on, and I have to be good, and I want to be good. I read my Bible, I prayed, and I drove myself to church. I was 15 years old. I wasn't supposed to be driving, but because my mom had died when I was 14, I got her car. I was very independent. I had no saved friends and no saved family members that I know of. No one ever talked to me about the Bible or God. I drove myself to church, but something was missing, and because I was able to be good for a while, but not for long, maybe a year. That's tremendous. But I suffered a lot of loneliness and, not just being so ignorant. So I stepped back from that life. I remember it was on Mother's Day and I went to church and I was sitting by myself and they were giving roses to, the moms. And here I am, my mom's dead. And I was just, I was sad. I was so sad. And I had friends coming around, hey, come party with us, And so I just walked away from God because I didn't stop feeling the same way. I loved Him. I love reading my Bible, but I knew I was a mess and I didn't know how to do anything about it. And being in church was not helping me. I wasn't saved, y'all. I was not saved. So anyway, college, meet my husband. He had a similar experience, and our first year of marriage was like hell on earth because you've got two independent people who, two sinners, you put them together, and you're all delighted with each other, in the flesh, but that wears off real quick, and you're having to share everything, and one person wants it hot and the other wants it cold, and one wants to sleep late and one wants to get up early, just little things like that. And I was actually packing my bags one day, and we both said, I said, I don't really want to leave. He said, I don't really want you to leave. And it's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how we're going to, be able to live with each other. And I believe it was me who said, I believe God could help us. It makes me want to cry. And we had been invited by someone that we had met to go to church. And it just happened to be an Assemblies of God, a tongue-talking church. But nobody else had invited us, and we did not know where to go, so that's where we went. And we kind of jumped into church, their programs, reading the Bible, Sunday and Wednesday. The one thing that I can say that was good about it is I determined that year I'm reading through the Bible. I've always wanted to read through it fully. I'd read the New Testament, but never the Old. So that first year, I read through the Bible all the way. We went to church. We were getting some Bible, but not really very much. The pastor tends to take a verse and then do this whole, I don't know what even you call it. It's not Bible study. It's self-promotion and how do you live your best life now, basically. And when you're at a Pentecostal church, again, it's you're going to speak in tongues if God has saved you, and you're going to be able to, there's going to be miracles, you're going to experience miracles. And so we stayed at that church for nearly 8 years, and I was miserable in the fact that I was still having that same struggle. I'm wicked, and God should send me to hell. I deserve that, and I know I do. And I wanted to be saved so bad. But I never heard the gospel at that church until one day, and I remember it so clearly. The pastor said, "You know, it's really nothing that we've done. Christ has done everything for us. He took on our sin. That's why he went to the cross." I remember that like a bright light, shining, and looking up from my Bible and then he perverted it. The next thing out of his mouth was, again, if you're saved, you will have that initial evidence of speaking in tongues. And I'm like, I'm not a fake it till you make it kind of gal. I talked to several people who did fake it, and that's just not me. But meanwhile, I was continuing to read and study my Bible and was very confused. I'm like, I don't understand my Bible. And I guess it's because I'm not saved. And I was pretty much in despair, but I loved God. I read my Bible, I prayed, I went to church. Well, I was sitting at home one day. I had our first baby and then had my second, and was flipping through the TV channels, and there was this TV preacher, and I just felt like, and I call it God. God knew what I was wanting and needing, and I started listening to him, and he used the Bible in a way that I had never heard it used before. But it wasn't his TV show or his preaching on TV that got me. He said, I have a book that will help you understand your Bible. The Bible seems confusing and it seems contradictory, but there is a way that you can understand the Bible for yourself. And he said, I guarantee you, with one verse from Scripture, I can clear up all the confusion for you and help you understand the Bible. It cost $55. I was staying at home, not working. The budget was tight. I'm like, I can't afford a book for $55. But one day during one of his commercials, he says, if you don't have enough money to buy the book, he said, call us, you give what you can, and someone else will give the rest. And I'm like, I'm calling this guy. This was a couple of months in, and I called him, and he answered the phone. And I said, I've been watching your show, and I said, I hear about your book, and I really want to understand my Bible. I said, but I'm a stay-at-home mom. I got very little money. I could send you $5. And he said, keep your $5 and I'll send you the book for free. He actually became a good friend over the years, and I'm always grateful to him for helping me understand. So I read the book, and for the first time in my life, I was able to understand the Bible for myself. And I'm going to share the verse with you that he has in his book that says will clear up all the confusion in the Bible. And while I'm finding that, what I'm going to tell you is the biggest thing that happened is he has a chapter in the book about faith and salvation. And in there he says, it was the same gospel that I had heard at my church, but this time it wasn't perverted. Christ has done everything for you and for me. No one can save themselves. There's nothing you can do to be saved. That's why he came. He had to become sin and die on the cross. God poured out his full wrath on Jesus Christ for the sin of all the world for all time. And if you put your faith in that, then you are saved. I was saved that day because I saw the gospel for the first time and I believed it, and I knew that God could save even me. I'm a wicked, wicked sinner. And it was the most glorious day of my life. And we always be grateful to that man for sharing the gospel so clearly with me. This is why I like to share the gospel so clearly with people who, will sit with me and have tea or do Bible study with me. But anyway, Galatians chapter 2, and it's not just a single verse, it's actually a sentence that takes up 3 verses. But this is Galatians 2, verses 7 through 9. And I've covered this in some of my Bible studies before. I won't have time to go into detail here. But this coincides with Acts chapter 15, and it explains the distinct gospel that the Apostle Paul was given to take to the whole world, because Israel had rejected the risen Christ, rejected him as King and Messiah, and they should have been punished. But instead of God punishing them, he turned to the Apostle Paul with this new gospel called the dispensation of the grace of God. And in it, it makes it possible for the Gentiles, who were always outsiders. We used to have to go to Israel in order to be saved, but now Israel's fallen. We can't go to them for salvation. So God saved Paul, took this gospel to the entire world where everybody, Jew and Gentile, can be saved today. So Galatians 2 verses 7 through 9, I will read that to you. But contrariwise, when they saw that the gospel of the uncircumcision was committed unto me, as the gospel of the circumcision was unto Peter. The next verse is a parenthesis. For he, that's God, that wrought effectually in Peter to the apostleship of the circumcision, the same was mighty in me toward the Gentiles. And when James, Cephas, and John, who seemed to be pillars, perceived the grace that was given unto me, they gave to me and Barnabas the right hands of fellowship, that we should go unto the heathen, and they unto the circumcision. And again, I say, go to Acts chapter 15, read that. And the fact that they had to have a meeting, that Paul had to go and tell the 12 apostles what gospel he was preaching, should open your eyes to the fact that there are 2 gospels. Okay, that fact helped me be able to understand my Bible. I now know when I pick it up, and I can read the Old Testament and know that God is talking about Israel. I can read Paul's letters and know they're talking to me. I can read the 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and know that that's Jesus' earthly ministry to Israel before his death, burial, and resurrection. The book of Acts is a book of transition. Jesus rose. He poured out his Spirit, the tongue talking, on Israel for a purpose, not just to jibber jabber. It had a purpose so that they could go to all nations and teach everyone. They did not do it. They rejected it. So God called Paul. And that's it. That's my testimony. And that's what I teach in women's Bible studies. That's what I teach to anybody who will listen. So if you've hung out this far, thank you. I appreciate you listening. And if you find this testimony helpful to you, and if you know somebody who may have experienced something similar, please pass it on to them. So I want to pause here to thank Life with Kathy and Patty, is that right? Okay, I'm muddling it all up anyway. The ones who host the Open Collaboration Tea Tuesday, as always, they're linked in the description box below, and also the hashtag Friday Sews. Even though I'm not sewing presently, I do plan to pick that up after the wedding, and I will be keeping up with you other ladies that participate in hashtag Friday Sews. That's hosted by Today in Jen's Sewing Room, and I will link that below. So cheers to you, and I'll see you next time.